Okay. What I'm doing here is this is um, a, a short rib, beef short ribs. You can do the same thing for pork, but for short ribs, we take an approach of frying them first. And what I did was I fried them with butter, and then I placed them on a very, very, very hot um, um, pan, very, very hot. On top of the meat, I place this seasoning here. Okay, this seasoning, and I'm only going to put it on one side. When I flip it over, which I'm going to show you, I'm doing that right now. Just give me a second. When I flip it over like this, and again, it's very, very hot. I don't put any seasoning on the second half. And the reason for that is because I don't want it to be too salty. And beef on its own has really a lot of seasoning, a lot of flavor. So you don't need to put too much seasoning on it. Once I feel comfortable with this, I'm going to take it off of this hot pan and place it in another place. I'm going to put it right here. So I'm taking it off here. I'm going to place it right here. The same thing with this one. Again, I'm cooking it very, very fast. So now I'm going to turn the heat off here. And now that I got the meat on the pan that I'm going to put into the oven, I want to place it side by side so that each one of the pieces are not necessarily over top of each other. They can touch. I just don't want them over top of each other. So touching is okay as long as we don't overlap. Because I didn't cook it completely. I cooked it enough. I didn't cook it completely, so I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to take them and rearrange them a little bit, as you can see here. Once I've done that, I'm going to put a little bit of butter on it, and then I'm going to throw it into the oven. And I'm going to show you what it looks like when I throw it into the oven. So take a look here. Here are the items I put into the oven. I had them close together. They can touch, but they are not going to be overlapping each other. And they got a little bit of butter. So I put it in the oven for 400 and then take them out within 10 minutes. Hopefully this will be another item that you can cook. Here is the rice. In this rice, I have about 4 cups of water and 2.5 cups of rice. I use long grain rice. And then once it comes to a boil, before I put the rice in, I make certain that I have in it some seasoning. The seasoning I'm using is this, and I usually put some bouillon cubes in them. And for 4.5 cups, I think 10 bouillon cubes is sufficient. I let it boil, then I add the rice. And then once I add the rice, I stir the rice in there because for long grain rice, it can stick a little bit. So you don't want to stick it. You want to make certain that you stir it up a little bit. So here it's just giving you an example of me stirring it up a little bit just to keep the rice from sticking together and allow the rice to cook well. And then I place the top back onto the rice. Now remember, in here I used a little bit of seasoning, but you can also put a little bit of butter, and I'm talking very little butter. Sometimes putting too much butter makes it a little bit softer than I would like, and it kind of interferes with the consistency of the rice when it's done. So that's what I do. So for this rice, cooking 15 to 20 minutes is sufficient. But it has to have the cover on there. And then once it starts to boil, I just take it and I lower the temperature of the rice on the stove. Not too low, but low enough. Let me do it another way here so you can see how it's getting low. Really low. And I'll allow it to finish cooking slowly. Hopefully this will give you some ideas of how to cook some beef ribs and some rice. And you already know how to do the vegetables. I steam my vegetables with a little bit of salt and butter over the stove and a little bit of water. If you don't like water on your vegetables and you want a little bit more flavor, chicken broth works very, very well. I use chicken broth that's unsalted, again, because I'm using salt when I add to my vegetables. Mina, I hope this works for you. Let me know if it tastes good.